What do you want to start with? I guess since we already talked about Fire Force, we can start with Fire Force.
Yeah, this is cool
This was
episode. I
this was
it's another
cool.
another transition and a very story heavy thing. I mean, some of it is recap for what we already knew a little bit.
Listen, they got my ass because I thought the three niggas was gonna fight.
Yeah, it's also say it's a little tease, little tease.
Yeah,
But yeah, so some of it is again like we got recapped on some of the background. We had already kind of we knew that there was a story, or knew the story behind Raffles and that journey that they preview or they started re-previewing at the beginning of the episodes this season. And we had a confirmation that it was Yona who was playing that role and had been playing that role. So we now know that character's been around for like 250 years.
Yeah, he's not fucking human.
And it was good because, and I had forgotten about this, that during the Asakusa arc, we learned that Yuna had that ability to impersonate or take other shapes and other things. And of like all of the Whiteclads, he or it at this point is the least human of all of them.
Yeah.
And may not even be human, as we saw. One of the also really cool things, which I don't remember this from the manga, but I have to go back. We actually got to see a lot more of the world
dimension?
of Adola.
Oh my god, I was about to say that shit looked so cool.
Yeah.
When they that whole sequence with their eyes and like them in that, I don't know what filter or whatever the fuck they were using, but I was like, oh, this shit, it looked weird, but it kind of like felt weird at the same time too, with like the bubbling that was like going on in the background. I was just like, wait, is it like water? Or like, what is going on? Like, what's bubbling, but then there's fire at the same time? And I'm just like, oh, this is weird. I love it.
So one of the things that I, as a reader, it's now interesting to go back and actually listen to, read about, or think about some of the theories that have been floated, not necessarily about where Fire Force is going as a show, but what Fire Force kind of means in the world of, or its connection to like prior works, if there is any. And one that I saw floated that I'm buying into more and more, and especially now they've started to animate more of the Adola stuff, is that if you go back to Soul Eater, there was a very interesting through line in Soul Eater about how if you got to the end of the series, whether it was TV or especially this is fleshed out at the end of the manga series, that the concept underlying Soul Eater was you have Shinigami who is God.
Yeah.
And the Kishin, who used to be a part of Shinigami, and so that's the disorder part. So Shinigami was order, Kishin was disorder, and madness was the trending of an orderly person or world or the rules of the world towards disorder and chaos. And that's what the Kishin could do. And so at the end of the series, Death the Kid is offered a choice as the son of God as to whether or not he's going to become a god of order or of madness. And, spoiler alert for those who have not finished Soul Eater, but Kid chooses order with the caveat that he won't become a god that would throw away and sacrifice people's and would kill for no reason and would not understand and promote, friendship and family and other things. Because Akishin's accusation was that the world that Shinigami was able to create by manipulating people's minds and emotions and everything else to be more orderly was one that denied human sort of agency and creativity and everything else.
Okay.
So that was Soul Eater. There's a theory floating around that if the end of Soul Eater represents a world where the heroes and humanity chose order, and so therefore chose sort of like heaven, then Fire Force is the opposite. A world in which it's ruled not by a just orderly Shinigami, but by a chaotic Kishin sowing madness everywhere, and madness being sort of the corruption of the rules of reality, and
you know what?
And
that
everything
kind of
like
fits
that.
the theme of it, though.
Correct.
Like big time.
Right. And whether or not there is any real tangible connection between the series or not, it's undoubtable when you start to look at the representation of Adola, and especially as they start to deal out more information on the show, and definitely in the manga as well, about what the Great Calamity was, and also what the world that the characters are living in. I think that there's some credence to the idea that this is the flip side, the reverse or even the inverse of the kind of world that was presented in Soul Eater, and Adola could itself be a literal allegory for hell. So there's something there. I also point out that there was a shot where you're looking at the evangelist in this episode, and you see the floating pieces of rock, and one of them has an eyeball embedded. And I don't think it's would be shocking to anybody if they lined up that eyeball with a certain moon from Soul Eater, that they look remarkably similar. And the end of the Soul Eater anime actually takes, or the manga, is a fight on that moon. The moon, and that's supposed to be the moon of madness. So there's a lot of like interesting little tidbits that are in there.
Oh my god, the moon is the. Oh, I need to go finish Soul Eater then on the manga side. Damn. I mean, overall, I enjoyed the episode. I got a lot of information. They set up the next arc. I also saw the PV for the next thing, and I'm really enjoying how they're bringing that little boy back into the story, because I definitely
you didn't forget about him.
I didn't forget about him, but I was like, what happened to that fucking kid? I thought he had, like, an Adola burst, because, well, no, not that he had an Adola burst, but that he was, like, he developed pyrotechnic powers.
Yeah, he was forcibly activated, so he definitely had a... So I don't remember. Is it if you have like some link there, and an insect gets you, then you just turn into a third generation immediately?
Well, that's another thing though. But then I also, I had seen that PV before I saw this most recent, this week's episode, and so when in the opening where like they're showing all the pillars. Mm-hmm. There's like in one of the pillars, like it looks like that kid's silhouette. So I'm assuming that he's an Adola, like he has an Adola burst, because it's the link right after what's crazy bitch's name?
Oh shoot, the fire, the one who sets all the fires, man.
Yes,
forgetting your name. I should know this. Is it Inca?
Inca.
Okay, it is Inca. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, they show all of the Adola bursts, or the Adola bursts that we know of. They show them in order. And so, right after her, the first pillar, it doesn't have this, like, a generic human silhouette. It has, like, that kid's hair as the silhouette inside of the pillar. So, I'm already assuming that he's way more important to the plot than I guess I thought before. Because at first I thought he was just forgotten about. But... now they're about to get into the Hajime Industries. Homeboy looks like he has half an infernal arm, like one arm is an infernal or some shit like that. I'm just like, oh, so we're about to get to crazy shit. Like, perfect. And you said an arc where like everyone gets some shine is about to come up. So
yeah, I mean, for the most part, they do switch back and forth between as far as arcs go, ones that focus more on like Shinra, and then ones that are like team sort of arcs. So this is one where everyone gets a little something.
I'm worried about Licks, but I feel like he's gonna live anyway, so I'm not really that worried.
At this point in the manga, I loved Licks. I thought he was really cool, and
I think he's cool now too. But I feel I don't know. I feel like maybe there's gonna be like a jerk, like and here's the first death. Nobody's
there's definitely some intrigue there, but I think one of the through lines for the characters in Fire Force, especially the ones who wind up in the 8th, is that all of them, they care deeply about the truth, and they don't really care about like what the impact of it is on the rest of the world. Like they're doing it for themselves. Yeah. So all the villains, at least the ones that are named, I don't know. I feel like broadly, like the pillars just sort of want to get the final showdown going. Like anything that can accelerate that's all they really care about. And like the other like minor villains are sort of like maybe self-interested. So there's like a through line with all the bad guys that they want to change the world, and they want to get that final calamity popping. They want to burn everything down. Most of the other characters who are not sort of aligned with them, at least the ones in the 8th, all care about like uncovering the truth. So whatever Licht is generally up to, I tend to, even at this point in the story, I wasn't like too worried, but I just felt like he's kind of like I don't know, too self-interested. He'd fuck shit up, but it's a really good arc, and I like him as a character. I like all these guys.